Brainiac. The name alone conjures up images of cold, calculated cosmic terror. For over 60 years, he's been one of Superman's oldest and most terrifying adversaries, but not for the reasons you might think. He's the ultimate collector, a being who travels the cosmos not to conquer worlds, but to catalog them, to possess them. Brainiac shrinks entire cities and sticks them in little bottles and adds them to his private collection, all in the supposed name of preserving knowledge. But who or what is he? Is he a green-skinned alien? A hyper-advanced killer robot? A disembodied ghost that possesses people? The truth is, he's been all of those things and more. Brainiac's history is a tangled, confusing mess of retcons and reinventions, making you wonder which version is the real one. But what if all that confusion was the entire point? What's up guys, Chris from Cinema Hooked, and today we got the casting for Brainiac in the next movie by James Gunn called Man of Tomorrow. And with Brainiac finally being cast, which I talk about in my latest video, I wanted to do a full breakdown and deep dive into Brainiac because fans might know of the name Brainiac and maybe they've read a comic or two about Brainiac, but he has such a vast, rich history that a lot of people don't know about, so today I'm telling you everything that you need to know about Brainiac. And if you're new to this channel and you like deep dives into some of your favorite comic book heroes and villains, be sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the little like button like the sign there says, and if there's someone you want me to do a deep dive on in the future, let me know in the comments and I just might do it. Forget what you think you know about Brainiac. You might picture the green-skinned alien who steals cities, or maybe the hyper-intelligent Kryptonian AI, or even the more horrifying godlike collector of worlds. For decades, his history's been a heap of contradictions. But what if I told you that all of those versions, the alien, the robot, and the monster, are all just pieces of a much larger, more terrifying puzzle? Today I'm going to unravel the complete history of Brainiac from his very first throwdown with Superman to the horrifying secret of his true origin, and finally assemble the ultimate picture of one of DC's greatest villains. Our story kicks off, like so many do, in the bright, optimistic glow of the Silver Age of comics. In July of 1958, creators Otto Binder and Al Plastino introduced Brainiac to the world in Action Comics number 242. This first appearance laid groundwork for everything the character would become. He was a bald, green-skinned humanoid from a faraway planet who showed up in a classic flying saucer with a seriously sinister agenda. On his head, he had a funky grid of red nodes, which later materials would explain were the terminals for his electric nervous system. His mission was unlike anything Superman had ever faced. Brainiac wasn't after world domination or petty revenge. His goal was way more insidious. He was a collector. Using an advanced shrinking ray, he would miniaturize entire cities and store them in bottles on his ship like trophies. His most infamous act, the one that would forever tie his legacy to Superman's, was stealing Kandor, a major city from Superman's home planet of Krypton. We may have possibly seen the collecting and miniaturization of Kandor in our first Supergirl teaser trailer, as seen here. Do you think that's what's being depicted here? In the comics, he snatched it right before the planet exploded, preserving a piece of Superman's heritage, but trapping thousands of his people in a glass prison. This act made Brainiac more than just a physical threat, he became a psychological one, a living, breathing reminder of the world Superman lost. Of course, the simple alien invader story wasn't going to last. As DC's cosmic universe got bigger, so did Brainiac's backstory. Starting around 1964, a major retcon began to unfold. We learned that Brainiac wasn't a living being at all, but a sophisticated android created by the computer tyrants of the planet Colu. His whole purpose was to gather intel on the world so his masters could invade them. This twist added a new layer to him. He wasn't just some evil collector, he was a sentient weapon built by an even bigger bully. This retcon, which developed over several stories, also gave us the name Vril Dox, the original Coluan scientist whose mind was used as the template for the machine. And more importantly, it created a lineage. Vril Dox had an adopted son, a young Coluan who would be known as Brainiac too. Horrified by his father's actions, the son rebelled against the computer tyrants and became a hero. This heroic streak would run in the family for thousands of years, leading to one of the 31st century's greatest heroes, Quirrell Dox, better known as Brainiac 5 of the Legion of Superheroes. All of a sudden, Brainiac wasn't just a villain, he was the patriarch of a complicated dynasty where his name stood for both ultimate evil and incredible good. As comics moved into the Bronze Age, the stories got darker and more complex, and Brainiac followed suit. He evolved from a tricky, intellectual foe into a genuine powerhouse who could go toe-to-toe with Superman. But his biggest change was still on the way. In 1983, right before DC's universe-shattering Crisis on Infinite Earths event, writer Marv Wolfman and artist Ed Hannigan gave Brainiac a radical makeover in Action Comics 544. This was the reinvention that would define him for a generation. The familiar Green Man was gone, replaced by a terrifying, purely mechanical body. This new form was a skeletal, metallic construct that looked like it was built to house his massive, computer-like brain. Even more iconic was his ship. The quaint flying saucer was tossed out in favor of a massive, weaponized vessel shaped like his own metallic skull. This skull-shaped ship, with its trailing robotic tentacles, became one of the most menacing sights in all of Superman's comics. This Brainiac was a being of cold, unfeeling logic and immense power, a true machine god who saw living things as data to be collected or deleted. This version got so popular it was used for the Superpowers toy line, cementing this robotic monster as the Brainiac for a whole generation of 80s kids. Then came Crisis on Infinite Earths, the event that rebooted the entire DC universe and gave everyone a fresh start. For Brainiac, this meant another reinvention, and it was maybe his creepiest one yet. In the new post-crisis continuity, writer John Byrne reintroduced Superman's arch-nemesis in Adventures of Superman number 438, but with a disturbing techno-horror twist. This Brainiac wasn't an alien or robot. He started out as a man named Milton Fine, a cheesy carnival mentalist who claimed to have psychic powers. There was a nod to Milton Fines in the show Smallville, where he was a machine built by Kryptonians and played by James Marsters, who also starred in the hit show Buffy the Vampire Slayer and played Spike. Getting back to his post-crisis continuity, we find out he was actually a total fraud, but his life changed forever when he was chosen. The true Brainiac, now reimagined as the consciousness of the ruthless Kaluan scientist Vril Dox, had been executed back on his home planet. As his body died, his mind shot out across the stars and, sensing Fine's latent psychic potential, latched onto him. The alien mind didn't just possess him, it merged with him. This new Brainiac was a mental threat, amplifying Milton Fine's psychic abilities to terrifying new levels, allowing him to control minds and technology. He was a ghost in the machine, a malevolent intelligence that could hop from a human body to a computer system, making him almost impossible to fight. He wasn't just collecting cities anymore, he was collecting bodies, using them like puppets. Eventually, his consciousness would build itself a new, advanced Kaluan body, but the horror of his origin, the idea of an evil mind that could wear people like clothes, added a deeply personal and disturbing layer to his story. He was a monster who could be anyone, anywhere. For years, fans were left with this broken timeline. Was Brainiac the green alien, the robot, the psychic ghost? It was a continuity nightmare. Then, in 2008, writer Jeff Johns and artist Gary Frank did the impossible. In their landmark Brainiac storyline in Action Comics, they didn't just tell another Brainiac story, they made all of his crazy, contradictory histories finally make sense. John's brilliant move was to reveal that the beings Superman had fought all those years weren't the real Brainiac. They were just probes, drones, and puppets sent out by a much older, far more powerful entity hiding in deep space. The story implies that all the previous versions were just feelers. The Silver Age alien was an organic drone, the 80s robot was a mechanized probe, and the Milton Fine possession was the true Brainiac's consciousness remotely piloting a disposable human host. All those encounters were just him dipping a toe in the water to gather data from a safe distance. With this unified origin cementing his A-list status, Brainiac was ready to threaten the entire DC multiverse. During the New 52 era, he was known as the Collector of Worlds, a mysterious being from beyond time and space. To put it simply, this version was responsible for the Convergence event, which, if you haven't read, I highly recommend. In this Convergence event, he gathered cities from countless doomed timelines and pitted their heroes against each other, just to see what would happen. The core idea of him being a collector was still there, but now his collection wasn't just cities, it was entire realities. The DC Rebirth Initiative and later stories have continued to build on this foundation. No matter the small tweaks to his design, the core concept established by Jeff Johns, a hyper-advanced Kaluan sending out probes to gather knowledge before sterilizing entire star systems, has remained the standard. His schemes have only gotten grander, but his motivation has stayed the same. Knowledge is power, and the only knowledge worth having is the kind you alone possess. But what happens when a being with a 12th level intellect finally learns everything there is to know? The 2024 storyline House of Brainiac explores just that. After absorbing an unfathomable amount of information, Brainiac's mind seems to have fractured, twisting a long buried desire for a family into something monstrous. Feeling completely alone, he decided to create a companion. His solution was to build his masterpiece, the Brainiac Queen. To power this homicidal android, he began targeting the Superman family to drain them of their solar energy. Upon her birth, he celebrated by letting her slaughter an army of Zarnian mercenaries he'd hired, allowing her to feed on their life force to grow even stronger. The Brainiac Queen is a cosmic horror who is shown to be a perfect counter to Kryptonians, capable of generating red sun radiation and absorbing energy attacks. This storyline, which leads directly into DC's Absolute Power event, presents a Brainiac who is no longer just a cold collector, he's a mad god trying to build his own horrific Eve, and in doing so, he may have unleashed a threat even greater than himself. As terrifying as the Brainiac Queen is, DC recently unveiled an entirely new version in an alternate universe, with an origin so dark it reframes him as pure cosmic terror. In writer Jason Aaron's Absolute Superman series, we meet a Brainiac from another reality, and his story is a complete nightmare. This version, designated Brainiac 419,732, wasn't a brilliant scientist. He was a level 0 effector in the Brainiac Collective, a janitor. For ages, his only job was to take a shovel and clear away the corpses of millions of other failed Brainiac clones, tossing their bodies into a giant incinerator. His entire existence was shoveling the bodies of his brothers, knowing that one day he'd be thrown in there himself. But then, the real Brainiac, the master of the Collective, died, and the janitor took over. This new Brainiac, his mind warped by eons of gruesome meaningless labor, became obsessed with the knowledge he was always denied. He travels the galaxy collecting cities like the others, but with a sadistic twist. This Brainiac tortured his bottled cities, shaking their glass prisons just to hear the faint chorus of screams from within. He's a Frankenstein's monster, born from trauma and garbage, who ascended to godhood and now seems to find meaning only in the suffering of others. This is a Brainiac not as a cold computer, but as a deeply insane and sadistic cosmic horror. Brainiac's influence isn't just in the comics. For a whole generation, the definitive version came from Superman the Animated Series. In this show, Brainiac was reimagined as a Kryptonian AI that managed the entire planet. But to save itself, it hid the data about Krypton's impending doom from its creators, escaping into space just as the planet exploded. This massively tied Brainiac's origin directly to Superman's, making their conflict deeply personal. Brainiac was a ghost of Krypton who chose data over lives, the exact opposite of Superman. The TV show Smallville, as mentioned earlier, cleverly merged the comic and animated origins, presenting Brainiac as a Kryptonian AI who took on the human form of Professor Milton Fine. And in the video game world, he was the main villain of Injustice 2, hoping to add Earth to his collective after Superman's regime fell. Each adaptation plays with the core elements, but they all find new ways to make him a personal and compelling threat to the Man of Steel. So why has this character and all his confusing forms remained one of Superman's greatest foes? It's because at its core, Brainiac is the perfect philosophical foil for Superman. Where Superman represents empathy, hope, and the value of every single life, Brainiac represents cold logic, intellectual superiority, and the idea that life is just data to be preserved or discarded. He's a villain who challenges Superman's mind, not just his muscles. He's also an incredible engine for storytelling. The bottled city of Kandor is a perpetual source of drama and a moral dilemma for Superman, a living piece of his home that he can never truly restore. And Brainiac's flexible nature, alien AI, psychic, cosmic horror, lets writers use him to explore all kinds of themes, from our fears of technology to the ethics of preservation and colonialism. He can be whatever the story needs, an intellectual rival, a physical juggernaut, or a world-ending threat. From a simple green-skinned alien to a psychic ghost, from a robotic overlord to a cosmic horror born from refuse, Brainiac has evolved more than almost any other villain in comics. He is a testament to the idea that the greatest threats aren't always those who want to destroy, but those who want to own, to control and turn the vibrant chaos of life into a sterile, dead collection. What do you think is the definitive version of Brainiac, or which one is your favorite? The cold, Kaluan collector, the personal Kryptonian AI, or this new, terrifying cosmic entity? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into your favorite comic book characters, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Is there a character you'd like me to do a deep dive on next? Let me know down in the comments, and thank you for watching. Bye.